Good morning, everybody. I'm so delighted to be with you. And today we're going to do something a little different because it's so important, I think, for us to change things up a little bit. And so today we're going to be talking about self-sabotage. Now, we are all guilty of it. The question is, do we let it stop us in our tracks, or do we take control of our life and make sure that we limit the amount of self-sabotage we have? Today, I'm pretty excited because you hear me talk a lot about Angela Topman, and I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for her being on my team and her incredible help. And so I've asked her to join me today. So I'm going to have her come on and join us on the video. But first, I want to talk a little bit about self-sabotage. Welcome, Angela. Your microphone is muted. There you go. Say hello.
Hello, how is everyone? Thank you so much, by the way, Sharon, for inviting me to be here with you.
Well, I talk about you a lot, so I thought everybody should really get a chance to see you and hear from you. But part of my self-sabotage, probably if there's anybody that could really, sell me out, it would be Angela. She knows everything that's happening here. So
Your secrets are safe with me. I'll let you reveal them.
This is a good blackmail session. But let's talk about one of the reasons, several of the reasons why we tend to self-sabotage. And for those of you on the line, we're not doing our normal submitted questions. We have a few that we'll talk about the topics of, because this is kind of a sensitive subject to people. And most of the questions came in anonymously. And I thought, oh, that's a message. So we're going to talk about the things that keep us from achieving and reaching the level of success that we deserve. And pretty much, I think everybody would agree. The first one is this self-worth, is I'm not good enough. And so if I'm not good enough, I'm going to keep myself from creating success. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Those things are just pervasive. We talk about it in Outwitting the Devil, the fear of criticism. I think that the whole self-worth and not feeling worthy is something that holds a lot of us back, and really is the impetus for a lot of self-sabotage. But there's also something called, when I talk about this a lot, about stepping outside your comfort zone. And when you do that, you lose a little control. So I think being in kind of wanting to stay in control of your life, the devil, what's the saying, Angela, the devil is better.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Yeah, something to that effect.
A lot of times we self-sabotage ourselves just because we don't want to lose control of our life and we want to kind of control our descent. And then along with that is being comfortable, right? So if you're stepping outside your comfort zone, then you're losing that level of comfort. And so we tend to self-sabotage to keep us where we're comfortable and not wanting us to step outside that. And that's something that I constantly try and challenge myself. Even at this age, I still force myself to do things that are not comfortable. And of course, we all have bad habits, and bad habits can certainly be the reason why we self-sabotage. We get into that, I think, Outwitting the Devil, it was called harmonic rhythm. And that harmonic rhythm can be negative or positive. So bad habits typically, if you think about addiction and any form of addiction, whether it be drugs, alcohol, or maybe it's exercise even. Sometimes we keep ourselves from achieving our success because we are so focused and disciplined in good and bad things that we're not taking the step that we need to. And then one that I think, when I was looking at this and really thinking about it, is drama. Sometimes we just need excitement in our lives, and so we create this self-sabotage to have drama in our life. Think about the hypochondriacs, right? They create illnesses, or they read something about it and all of a sudden they know that they have it. But self-sabotage is something that we're probably all guilty of. I know I used to always say I operate better under pressure. And I say that all of my life, because in college I would do term papers the night before, even though I had weeks to do them. And I was lucky because I could actually still pull it out. But that self-sabotage, that stress that you have when you do that and you wait till the last minute, it puts a longer term physical stress on you. And so ask yourself about the times in your life that you would be willing to admit to yourself, no one else, that you actually did self-sabotage. Because I know I do it regularly. Right now, I'm trying to get some writing done, and what am I doing? I'm doing a lot of reading. It's like, I should be sitting at my desk writing, and I'm holed up somewhere reading a fluffy book. So those are things that you just have to say, okay, how do you get past it? And so a couple things I'm going to talk about on how you get past it is really recognizing it, observing yourself, and recognizing a new pattern or one of those where you're in that I'm not good enough category. And a lot of it is fear of success, so allow yourself to feel the ability to take that next step. A lot of cause for self-sabotage is this element of feeling like you have to be perfect. And so if you're not going to be perfect, then you're not going to go the next step. So recognize that and do it anyway, realizing that you don't have to be perfect. And another thing that when I talk to people that are in that circle is you have to think outside here. All right. Because really self-sabotage is selfish. It's all about you. And you have a gift and people need to hear your gift. And so if you can focus on other people and the need that they have and what you can do to support them, you can get yourself past that self-sabotage. A lot of times, you'll see a lot of people that go through something really difficult. And certainly as I've shared about my son, there were a lot of times I didn't really want to share it to the world. And now I realize that by sharing it, I'm having a huge impact on people that are helping them get to the next step in their lives. And it's something that I realized I didn't really want to ever feel like I was capitalizing on the story of losing my son. And yet at the same time of such a huge part of who I am and how I've spent the last few years of my life, that on the advice of good mentors, I started sharing it, and seeing the impact that I'm having on others has allowed me to get outside of here and realize, thinking about beyond your own little sphere of influence. And the other one is stepping outside your comfort zone, exploring life, doing new things, and getting past that barrier, that self-imposed barrier that we have. And it's something that each and every one of us can think about. I can tell you, I self-sabotage exercise all the time for myself in my life. Think of something else I can do that just has to get done, so I can't take my morning walk. But Angela and I were talking about it, and so she was sharing a big one for her. And I wanted her to come on. Give us your thoughts about self-sabotage, Angela, and I'm going to let you just take it away.
Well, first of all, I think that all of the things that you just talked about apply to me in some way, shape, or form. So I know you shared a little bit about how you thought you were experiencing it a little bit on your own with your reading and writing stories. So I will tell you, I said at the beginning that I'm not going to tell on you, that I'll let you do that. And I think it's pretty incredible that you're willing to do that. So thank you. And we have a lot of people, even though it's a sensitive subject, I don't know if you see, there's a lot of people who have tuned in. So thank you everybody who's live right now. The first thing that came to mind is a personal story of mine. And I've done a lot of the things that you've talked about already. I've certainly, when it came to eating right, I've had self-sabotage. There's a lot of things that they're just hard in general because it requires a heightened level of discipline, which isn't always fun, even if it's something that is part of your personality naturally. But I remember when I was very young, still in college, it was actually right as we had first met, Sharon. I started as an intern at the Rich Dad Company, and I was on a specific track for my life. I had seen somebody in my family who had created what I viewed and perceived as a great deal of success, and I wanted to follow that particular path. And so part of that was I was already in college at ASU. I was studying for my accounting degree, and so my plan for my life is I was going to get my degree. I was going to sit for the CPA exam. I was going to go into public accounting, and then, like so many people do, shift into industry. And I was going to climb corporate ladders and be incredibly successful while having, of course, the perfect family, and everything was going to be wonderful. The problem is that the more I followed this path, the more I realized that it wasn't really something that was in my heart that I wanted to do, but I kept doing it because I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. Plus, I was really worried about disappointing people who knew that had been my goal. And that's something that's really big for me, is I almost feel like for myself personally, and I don't know if other people can relate to this, the fear of disappointing others is almost too much sometimes, or it's such a large trade-off that I will not pursue the things that perhaps I can be successful at or that I can do to play big because of that fear. I allow that to hold me back. And I know you talk about fear a lot in what you share, sharing in your messaging, which is so important. But I continue to do this. I even paid for a CPA study course so that I could prepare myself to take the CPA exam. I sat for the exam knowing that I was not prepared for it. I had done all the right things. I had gone through the motions, but I, of course, did not pass the exam because I didn't really want to be there. I didn't want to do it. It wasn't in my heart to do that. And so deep down, I knew that that's not what I wanted to do with my life, but I was following the path that I thought I was supposed to take. And looking back, I could see that all those things that I did, even though I was going through the motions, I was doing them in a very self-sabotaging way because I wasn't doing them setting myself up for success. So that particular message hit pretty hard for me at home. And there's other examples too. I think that the thing that I didn't know at the time that it was self-sabotage. I was just feeling really bad about myself because I thought I was supposed to be going down this path and I wasn't doing it well. And I think that creates a whole new cycle, which becomes this perpetual self-sabotage cycle.
Well, I think some of the things you just shared are a lot of us would agree that we've all been through that. And I think you just touched on you weren't feeling good about yourself. So that's when we talk about the self-worth, not feeling good enough. And then I think you were also, it's a demonstration of the issue about control, because you are very much like me. You like to control what's happening in your life. And so that,
you noticed that, huh?
That was probably part of it too. But I like when you talk about what was expected of you. Mm-hmm. So it might have been that self-sabotage could have also been a little bit of rebellion, you think?
Maybe a little bit.
But, so those of you that are on the line, I see a lot of really wonderful friends already with us, Carolyn and Karen and Ken, Tracy, Emily, Joyce, Greg, Lisa, and Robert. Oh, hi, Robert. Sorry, I haven't talked to you in a long time. So one of the things that when we talk about self-sabotage, we almost kind of smile about it and then joke about it, but it really is something that impacts us not just on our pathway to success, but on our health as well. Because when you self-sabotage, you're giving in to all of that, and what I call that rototiller of lack of self-worth, that rototiller of fear of success, not fear of failure. So I think it's fear of success that causes us to self-sabotage. And sometimes we have to put on our big girl pants or our big boy pants and force ourselves to go forward. And I think one of the things, and it's not one that I talked about yet, but I think one way to help yourself when you identify you're in self-sabotage is having an accountability partner. And so, in fact, I talked to Ange last week about this thing that I'm seeing myself do right now. And so, we kind of have this agreement, and she'll say, this is what I need to get done today. So I make sure I'm staying on target. So she's my taskmaster. She's my accountability partner. So, and there's nobody better to talk about being accountable and having an accountability partner than Angela. And she does not know that I was going to do this. So I'm putting her on the spot. So talk a little bit about accountability.
Well, I think it's important, not just because the more we can feel achievement in our own right, it propels us to continue to do bigger things and to move forward. But I think too, sometimes, we don't necessarily have the internal wherewithal to know where it's coming from or even see it happening. I think that the number one step to getting over self-sabotage is to recognize you're doing it. And I shared a little bit ago that as I was going through that process of studying for the exam and sitting for it, I knew that I was in a funk, but I didn't really know what the issue was. And it wasn't until later that I kind of had to come to terms with the fact that it's just not the path that I wanted for my life, which that was a hard thing to admit because I literally had planned this for like years. I mean, I was 12 and I had my life planned out. And so that was a hard thing to admit, is that after all this time and after talking to so many people about this is what I was going to do, to admit that I wasn't going to do that anymore because that's not actually what I wanted after all. So, number one, you have to identify it. And so if you don't recognize what's happening, or if your emotion level is very high and so you simply can't see what's happening, it helps to have somebody else to hold you accountable. And I know, Sharon, on other Facebook Lives, you've talked about you're more likely to go to the gym if you know somebody's there waiting for you. This is human nature. It's not something we should beat ourselves up over. It's just the way that we work. And I think, too, that it creates more value, I think, sometimes when you have somebody to go through it with you. It's lonely to do everything on your own. So an accountability partner not only sets you up to be able to achieve what you want by having somebody there holding your feet to the fire, but it also gives you somebody to celebrate with and to help validate that success as well.
And one of the things I talked about getting over self-sabotage is thinking outside yourself. And so when I talked about, you think about other people need to hear from you. Well, it can also be as simple as having that person who's expecting to meet you at the gym. That's going to make you get out of bed in the morning and go, more than you just saying, I should do this, I should do this, shoulda, coulda, woulda. But if there's somebody there waiting for you, you're more apt to actually get out of bed and get there. And so thinking outside yourself includes having an accountability partner to help you keep on the right track. And the other thing, as I'm going to say this as it relates to your story, Angela, success is not black and white. Success evolves and changes. I mean, certainly I thought my legacy was Rich Dad, and then no, the world said, no, there's more for you to do. And my level of success is changed dramatically, and what I see as success. And so it's something that as young, we start having this vision, and I've talked about this in prior segments about expectation. Mm-hmm. We have this vision in our life, this expectation of how our life is going to unfold, and things that, what is going to come to us, and how we are going to grow in that. And so that mind that we have, whether it was at 12, 20, 30, 40, sometimes reality doesn't listen to us. And so the issue is, are you going to have your feeling of happiness or sadness based on what you thought was going to happen? Or are you going to be open to what is happening and make the choices at that point in time to help propel yourself forward and realize that success is not black and white. Success can evolve in a very different format and a different way. Certainly, we just came from the weekend, and we were thrilled to have Angela and her family join us at our ranch. 20 years ago, you told me I was going to own a ranch and have cattle. I would have laughed at you, but here we are. We have this little piece of heaven and we enjoy it, but we turned it into an income producing asset as opposed to just a second home. So all of those things, we have to be open to what success looks like today, and be open to the fact that that may change in the future. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail right on the head. The other thing that I think about often, and I shared with you before, so certainly I've obviously read all of your books, and there's one thing that Sharon knows, and for those of you who are watching who happen to know me well, I'm a pretty high emotion individual. And so when it comes to the topic of self-sabotage, sometimes it's hard to get out of. You called it that rototiller, Sharon, where you get into this cycle where you do something and you're beating yourself up because you didn't do it, and then you feel bad, and then you do something that helps self-sabotage more, and then you feel even worse, and so this cycle continues. And one of the things that has helped me a lot that I remember quite often and I think about is a quote from 3 Feet from Gold. And it talks about never make a major decision in a valley. And that's a really great trigger for me to stop and say, okay, so what's going on right now? Because I think that self-sabotage is all rooted in emotion. You talked about fear of success, fear of failure. It truly is rooted in emotion. And so by recognizing that I am in that space, I can stop and take a breath and try to figure out what's going on and try to work my way out of it.
I love hearing that. That's great. And I think, also we talk about, emotion is not weakness. And that's something that many of us, and those of, I know several of you that I see are on this Facebook Live would agree with this. I grew up in, my dad was career military, and I still remember saying crying, crying doesn't help, get over it, just do what you need to do. And so, most of my adult life, I was had to be very strong, and vulnerability was not something that I wanted others to see in me. And that I'm not, I'm in my 60s and I'm finally being more vulnerable and open to sharing my emotions. And it's, it really feels good. I wish I'd known this 40 years ago, but we all have the crosses that we bear, things that we have done to ourselves, and that self-sabotage doesn't mean we can't have success in our life. The issue is, can you have the greatest success that you deserve? And so only you can look in the mirror and say, what is it that I'm doing that's holding myself back? And go back through the things that we talked about at the very beginning, the reasons why we self-sabotage, lack of self-worth, wanting to be in control, that familiarity of not wanting things to change, even though you say you want to step outside your comfort zone, you kind of do things to keep you in your comfort zone. And those bad habits, and boredom, needing that excitement in your life, wanting that little bit of drama. I know my daughter, who's absolutely perfect and great, when she was growing up, she was my little drama queen. And when she was in college, she was working in the OR at a hospital, and it was giving her the drama she needed during the day when she was working, so that her own life could be a little more calm. And it was interesting to see that. And so today, luckily, she doesn't have a lot of drama in her life. So, but every day with a new baby, I guess she's got lots of drama every day. But each of us think about the things in our life that we do to create normalcy. In fact, last week I was saying I'm a little freaked out because I don't have another plane ride. My next 3 or 4 speaking gigs are here in Phoenix, which is yay. I love being in my own bed, but it was like, whoa, I don't have another flight until August. And it's like, I felt that whole panic raising up inside of me saying, this isn't normal. I'm on a plane all the time. And I go, well, wait a minute. I wanted to travel less. So here I am, but at the same time, it's like this whole expectation versus reality, and being open to things that are changing the way we want them to. And then you feel this little fear kick in because that fear of change. And so what is it in your life that you might have a little fear of? You may want it, but you have a little fear of it, that you might be doing things to self-sabotage. And think about the ways that we talked about it, identifying and getting over it. For instance, I talk about observing yourself, paying attention to it, recognizing it. And even when you have close friends, ask them, if they see you doing something that's harmful to yourself, or not so much harmful, but preventing you from enjoying life, have them tell you. And again, being a perfectionist, and believe me, I know it, it's, somebody gives you a gift and you see one little tiny corner that's got a flag, you see that what's wrong with it instead of what's right with it. That's no way to live. So enjoy life and realize success isn't black and white, and things change, and make sure you're not living your life based on your expectations. Above all else, that accountability partner, thinking beyond yourself, helps you stop the self-sabotage. When I know somebody's waiting for something from me, I'm more likely to ignore the self-sabotage and sit down and get it done. Check the box, because I feel the responsibility to support those people that are wanting to support me. And so that's sometimes it can be like a way to force yourself past that self-sabotage. And so, yeah, today, and those of you that have come in and tuned in a little later, we aren't doing the normal typed in questions because I realize a lot of them came in anonymously. So Angela and I were talking about it particularly over the weekend. And I said, well, let's just do something a little different, because I've talked to you so much about Angela and the incredible role that she's played in my life. And we've worked together now, what is it, 16 years, Angela?
Since 2001, so
Almost 17. Yeah. So those people that know you the best will also probably be the ones that can help you identify the things that you need to probably look at. And so I want you to share in the comments. But again, for those of you that are not part of the Play Big Movement private Facebook page, Angela's going to put a link in there when we get off the line, if she can't do it right this minute, on how you can join the Facebook page. It's called Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter. We do a Thursday morning Facebook Live in that group, and that's at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard, noon Eastern Standard. And we talk about the tips and the science and secrets of playing big. We just did the first one last week, so we'll be doing it again tomorrow morning. And I would love to have you join us there and share. But I really want you to think about tonight when you're brushing your teeth and you're looking in the mirror, challenge yourself. What are you doing to yourself? What areas of self-sabotage are preventing you from having the life that you deserve? Even the most successful people go through periods of self-sabotage. And it's a good, the first step is recognizing it. And then realizing, what you're going to do. In fact, this morning, Mike says to me, start walking tomorrow morning. I said, yep. So again, those are the things that we have to recognize and then take that step and have that accountability partner. Because I guarantee you there won't be mornings when I start groaning, and there'll be mornings when I get up and he's the one groaning. So together, maybe we'll get this done. And so again, you have the greatest success. You have the ability to create great success in your life. And if nothing else I've shared this morning, think outside yourself. Think about all of the people out there who deserve to hear from you, whose lives can derive benefit from your life, your experiences, your successes, your failures, your learning opportunities. So many people, stay in their own little cocoon, and that is its own form of self-sabotage. So when you start opening up to other people, not only do you let the light in, you let their experiences, their love, and their energy come into your heart, but then you start realizing that, hey, I don't have it so bad. I can step out and keep going. I can't remember the name of the parable, but there's one where they said everybody comes and puts their problems on stage. And then at the end of the day, you go back and you typically pick up your own problems, not somebody else's. We all have stuff going on in our life, and we all have the opportunity to reach out and expand beyond our own little world, stepping outside our comfort zone. And it's a lot more fun. It's a lot easier when you have somebody there supporting you. And that's why we're doing the Play Big movement. So we do this together. We work together, we learn together, and we laugh together. And so thank you, Angela, so much for sharing with everybody today. And you want to have any final thoughts on self-sabotage?
Well, I think it's an important topic, and I think that it was great, Sharon, that you said people of even the most successful people still have periods of self-sabotage, because I think that sometimes when we're in those moments where we're in that cycle, again, it's all about us, and we're not thinking about how we can take inspiration or how we can take from the examples that other people have set, and that there are others that are struggling from that as well and overcoming it. And I know that that's a big part of the Play Big movement is, you really wanting for people to come along on the journey with you and to, really be able to see the challenges you're facing and see how you're overcoming them and what you're doing to address them. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and be a part of that on the topic of self-sabotage. And thanks for not making me tell on you, by the way.
Well, I think part of what one of the things that we do with our mentoring clients is, you can do as much advising and counseling and suggestions, but it's up to the client to take action. And a lot of times, one of the hardest things as a mentor is to know when you see somebody in that self-sabotage mode. And it's, all you can do is try and help identify it and bring light to it and give alternatives of ways to get past it. Sometimes it's, telling them to do time blocking. Sometimes it's changing the scenery. Sometimes it's like setting smaller goals, little wins. And it's something that, as we talk about accountability, part of that is also realizing that you have a bigger opportunity than you think. And you have every opportunity to create the success you deserve. And so many of us, as we started this, are our own worst enemy. And in fact, Outwitting the Devil, the book that I came out with that Napoleon Hill wrote, was hidden away for 73 years. He wrote it after having spent his life writing Think and Grow Rich, interviewing the most successful people. And it was his life's work. And it was like this term paper on success. And when he released it, he said in 1937, he was frustrated. He says, even though people know what they're supposed to do, they don't do it. And he sat down and wrote Outwitting the Devil in a few months. Now, the title scared his wife, and that's why it was hidden for 73 years. But I think there was a greater power at work. And the reason he did that was because his fear holds us back. Well, fear is all around self-sabotage. That self-sabotage is fear of success, fear of stepping outside your comfort zone, fear of criticism. You heard Angela talk about, what she felt that she needed, what other people were expecting of her. That's fear of criticism. And all of those fears hold us back. And this book, Outwitting the Devil, really helped me change my life. And it talks about how to get past that, how to recognize those bad habits, that hypnotic rhythm that keeps us doing things that hold us back. And so if you haven't read it, it was a brilliant work by Napoleon Hill, and I'm honored that I was able to be part of it and to share it. But again, as you're brushing your teeth tonight, say, what is it that I'm doing that's holding myself back? And also think outside yourself. Think of other people that you care about and say, how are they sabotaging themselves? And how can you shine a little light that maybe will help them open up and see that they can have an accountability partner in you. So thank you all for being with us today. Thank you again, Angela. We appreciate you being with us. And every one of you, I can't wait as we work this together and continue playing big. I invite you all to be part of the private Facebook group because we're having fun. We're having some fun things coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be launching the podcast with some pretty special people in my life. So again, have a fantastic week and go out there, find that accountability partner, find that mentor, and always think about the people in the world that need you and need to hear from you. Bye. Have a wonderful week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Sharon.